the QDX version 3 versus version 1. Sorry, Rev 3 versus Rev 1. So there are a lot of changes in this radio. Very good changes. It's easier to build. It's a little bit faster to build. Some of the bugs have been fixed. I left the side plates on because I didn't feel like unscrewing the BNC connector. So this is a bug that has been fixed. That is now internal. The new Rev 3 has an added push-to-talk switch here that will help drive your amp. And on the back side of the board, we have removed this mess here, which was a after production fix that Hans found. From what I understand, the board became resonant on certain frequencies because of the internals, and we needed to put these in to replace those. And they have been baked in. You can see them hiding here now. So the problem has been solved internally, and it's a little bit easier to deal with. The TXCO is missing on the new board because it is built into the new board directly. So that'll save some parts there. And overall, it's a fairly easy kit to build. The Toads Discord built it in about 4 hours as a group, and a lot of fun was had, and we're going to do another similar kit build together on the Toads Discord in the future. This is a quick look at the board. One of the questions that came up while we were building this is, these blue capacitors in here, these yellow capacitors, why are they all different values? Why are there so many different values of them? And I was actually able to answer this because of a video that we did on Coffee and Ham Radios where we built bandpass filters. Each of these values, this capacitor on top of the toroid, this capacitor next to the toroid, and this toroid. So 3 capacitors and a toroid makes a bandpass filter. So 1, 2, 3 bandpass filters visually present there. This is a 4-band radio, 80, 40, 30, and 20. I'm not sure why there isn't a 4th bandpass filter, but Hans knows what he's doing, and I will trust him because the thing works and it's beautiful. When you're building this, to have a magnifying glass or a loupe, because some of these parts are really small and you want to identify them properly. So what I do, as you've seen before in a lot of my build videos, is I make a sheet where I identify all of the parts first and tape them down. That way I can very quickly just go back and grab them. Number 1, I know that I have all of the parts needed to do the build, and number 2, they're already identified, so I don't need to go back to the loop all throughout the build, just in the beginning. One of the other things that we noticed while building this is this part here of the circuit seems to be bridged, solder bridged, and it's actually not. It's just that those 2 contacts for this diode and this inductor are that close together, and they're connected on the circuit board anyway. So when you're building this, don't sweat it if that gets to be bridged. Other bridges, yes, worry about it, but luckily there were a couple of us that were building this. Some of us hadn't gotten that far yet, and it was like, please check this real quick before I pull all my hair out. The hard parts of the kit, the binocular toroid, it's tough, but it's not impossible. And when you get it all done and built and put in place, Hans does include a test in here where you can determine if you've done the job right or wrong and make some changes before you go too much farther. This is one of the early steps in the build process. The next one is this toroid. This toroid is extremely tedious. There are 41 turns on this toroid. It's not hard, it's just tedious. My recommendation is to bunch these up in groups of 5 or groups of whatever that mathematically makes sense for the job at hand. The first set is 19 turns, so 5, 10, 15, and 4 makes 19. And then you can move them off to the side and you can do the next set until you get to 41, and then you can space them nice and evenly like this and get it back into play. And maybe even do a better job of spacing it than I did. Not that big of a deal. That's where some of your final testing comes in. These are the 2 hardest ones. The rest of this is just plain out time consuming, but not difficult. And I don't mean time consuming like it takes hours. These guys are, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes a piece. It feels like hours, but it's just 5 or 6 minutes a piece. The kit comes in a fantastic little bag. I ordered the case with mine. The case is a very high quality metal case, and it has printed lettering, silkscreen lettering on it. It's a custom fit, custom design for the radio. I wouldn't recommend doing this radio unless you just wanted the experience of the kit build. I wouldn't build this radio without having the case around to protect it after it's built. Put it in your pocket, take it with you up to the summit, and do some FT8 up high, up at altitude. This plus Raspberry Pi plus antenna plus battery, you are good to go. Here's what it looks like when you get all of the diodes and capacitors installed. One of the early steps in the process, very easy to do. Fantastic feeling when you get to the end of the parts list here. These are Motorola BS170s, probably clones of BS170s, but it's a very popular design, and Hans has built the kit so that there is a spot to put them onto the board, and then there is this washer screw nut heatsink configuration. I added some Arctic MX4 thermal compound because I do a lot of computer heatsink type work and wanted to be able to spread that load a little bit more. It does help with thermal transfer, which will help with the longevity of this thing. A little bit of thermal compound goes way longer than you think it does. Have a way of cleaning up your mess after you make it is probably the best advice I can give you. All right, we've got most of the big toroids on now, only 2 left. This was my trick for getting the trifiller wound toroid, the enamel wire all set up. I chucked it up in the drill, I ran it at a very slow speed, freed up some hands, and gave me some motive force to get the twisting done, and wound up with a really nice product. This is NO0F, and he was part of the build group on the Toads Discord. We chased each other all up and down the bands trying to make this work. I sent him a plus 23. It was difficult to get this completed. Even after the build, we were at 100 watts, and it was difficult to get this completed. Monday, the day after the build, was a lot better. I'm being heard in a lot more places throughout the US. This is what 30 meters look like. Again, band conditions not that great on 30 meters on Monday. I made a contact with VB4 Ligma. This is one of the Meme Appreciation Month special event contacts, and this was Ben. Ben is another Toad, and this was a QDX to QDX contact. We didn't even know it was happening until after it happened, and we talked about it on Toad's Discord. Switched over to 40 meters. This is what 40 meters looked like. Not very good. 20 was the band of the day. This is a 40 meter contact WA3WNT -11 -22. If you are looking for how to get your QDX set up in WSJTX, here is a screenshot of the radio settings. This is on a Linux machine, so my serial port is /dev/tty ACM0. It will be a COM123 port for you on your Windows box, I believe. And then this will also show up as another strange port on Macintosh. These are the sound card settings for input, so you just want to make sure that you have the transceiver for input and output selected. 10 out of 10, would build again. There is a video right over here I think you will enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. We'll see you in the next one.